folks, my name's Gray, and today on Video Holocaust we enter the controversial realm of the Obscene Publications Act, better known to you and me as the video nasty, a term to be avoided at all costs by some filmmakers, a badge of honour to others. But out of the knee-jerk reaction to the glut of horror and action movies released on the then unregulated new medium of home video here in the UK, only a very small handful of titles would carry the notoriety of their reputation to this very day. Released simply as Zombie in the States, but better known by its more infamous international title, today's review is of Zombie Flesh Eaters.
The boat can leave now. Tell the crew.
It's rare indeed when a horror movie made over 40 years ago on a shoestring budget, dubbed into English and released with little hype or promotion, can still be placed within the top tier of the zombie subgenre. But through a combination of being released at exactly the right moment to an increasingly hungry audience for horror and home video opening up the floodgates, allowing anyone with a VCR access to not just big Hollywood releases, but also the other end of the spectrum. Low budget action, exploitation and horror films. And it's this tsunami of gruesome and grisly movies on VHS, often uncut, that brought about the infamous Video Nasty label, which in the long run made not just this movie but other titles caught up in the negative publicity of the early 80s like Shogun Assassin, Driller Killer, I Spit on Your Grave and another controversial Italian movie, Cannibal Holocaust, becoming high profile must-watch movies for any and all fans of horror. Now, I mentioned in the opening that this movie was simply known as Zombie in the US, but it was released in its native Italy under the title of Zombie 2. But if that's the case, was there ever a Zombie 1? Well, yes, incredibly, there was, and it was none other than George A. Romero's Dawn of the Dead. Yes, that's right, this movie right here was an unofficial sequel of sorts, or more specifically, a quick cash-in on the part of local producers looking to make a profit off of name changes to foreign movies. But it wasn't alone. This movie right here is called Ghost House, and it was released in Italy under the title La Casa 3. La Casa meaning the house. But what was it part 3 of? Well, you're probably thinking it was an illegitimate installment in popular American low-budget horror series House, itself not short of sequels. Well, good guess, but wrong. La Casa 3 Ghost House is in fact a mock sequel to Evil Dead 1 and 2. Mamma mia! But it's not plagiarism or copyright infringement that's kept this movie in the public eye for 4 decades and counting. Zombie Flesh Eaters and other Mediterranean zombie films were the 80s equivalent of the spaghetti western of previous decades. Gone were the social commentary on consumerism espoused by Romero that the critics loved. Instead, the Italians focused on what Joe Public wanted: gore and blood-soaked spectacle. Director Lucio Fulci may be best remembered in his homeland for his giallo thrillers and comedies, but he was an above-average director with a real eye for visuals, and managed to mould a masterpiece of modern horror despite a weak script and constant interference from producers. And it's the producer we have to thank, or blame, for perhaps its most famous set piece. Besides the infamous eye-gouging scene, of course. And that's a spot of underwater wrestling between a zombie and a real-life bloody shark. And I get the feeling it wasn't just the tiger shark here that was under the influence of mind-altering substances during the filming of this scene. So the dead have risen and are on the rampage, but what's caused this outbreak? voodoo. And somewhat surprisingly for a film that's not shy in showing the scenes that make the senses squirm, you never actually see any rituals take place. It all happens off camera and is only mentioned briefly by the doctor treating the sick before they expire and become the living dead. But while the rational man of science may not believe in superstition, the other survivors simply focus on staying alive as the zombie horde makes their attack. Our stars make their last stand, and having finally reached relative safety aboard a boat, they leave behind the remote region where the horror started and head home to civilization. That is, if there's any home left to return to. Now, I don't mind telling you folks, but I've got a real soft spot for these Italian zombie movies, and although very much products of their time, few horror movies since have reached the same levels of gory visual effects or off-the-wall creativity without devolving into comedy. And although there will be a lot more zombie movies released after this, all trying to cash in on its success, including its director Fulci's follow-up, Zombie Flesh Eaters Part 2, a project in which he would be kicked off of partway through filming, with it being completed by someone else. But the original Zombie Flesh Eaters is, in my opinion, up there alongside the original George A. Romero Living Dead trilogy, and maybe the Dan O'Bannon helmed Return of the Living Dead as one of the greatest zombie movies of all time. And it's thanks to Arrow Video that we can now watch it in its original aspect ratio glory on DVD and Blu-ray. A fantastic release and well worth adding to your collection. So my name's Gray, you've been watching Video Holocaust. Lots more reviews coming your way very soon, so please like, share, comment and subscribe, and thank you very much for watching. Goodbye.